In this video, I'm going to show you how to make urban Cowboy coffee, the Kent Rollins method, the smoothest cup of coffee this side of the Cascadia subduction zone. Let's get started. I was recently doing an assessment of my off-grid coffee making capabilities, and I realized I didn't have all the right equipment put into place for making off-grid coffee in an SHTF situation. So I did some research and conducted some polls on my channel, and a lot of people were recommending Cowboy coffee, specifically the Kent Rollins method. And so that's what we're going to be covering in this video. Kent Rollins has an awesome YouTube channel, link in the description box below, where he provides a lot of various Cowboy recipes, including Cowboy coffee, in which he uses a vintage coffee pot and makes coffee in bulk on Old Bertha. So we're going to be trying to replicate that as an urban Cowboy coffee. So let's get started now. So Cowboy Kent Rollins recommends using an old vintage coffee pot for making Cowboy coffee. So I did some shopping and found one on eBay, in addition to one that my mom had on her porch. So I snagged that at one as well. So Cowboy Kent Rollins recommends having 2 large pots for making Cowboy coffee. You never want to run out of Cowboy coffee. My mom also happened to have one of these smaller coffee pots to make a smaller batch. Cowboy Kent Rollins makes Cowboy coffee by the quart, so multiple quarts of Cowboy coffee. If you just want to have a cup, like an 8 ounce or 12 ounce, which would equate to a tall or a grande, then you could use a smaller pot like this. So that's what we're going to use for this video. Cowboy Kent Rollins mentions that he doesn't know what all of this grande and venti stuff is. So for urban Cowboy coffee, a grande is going to be a 16-ounce cup of Cowboy coffee. A venti is a 20-ounce cup of Cowboy coffee. But if you happen to have a large party at your place, maybe in an off-grid situation, you want to make it by the quart and you don't want to run out. So here's all the equipment that we're going to be using for making urban Cowboy coffee. Cowboy Kent Rollins has an old vintage stove called Old Bertha. I don't happen to have one of these, so we're going to be using Old Coleman for this particular video. Cowboy Kent Rollins uses Folgers ground coffee for his Cowboy coffee. I'm going to be using the Devil's Coffee Starbucks that's local to Seattle, and we're going to be using it for this particular video. So let's get Old Coleman fired up. I'm going to be making 2 grande urban Cowboy coffees, so 16 ounces each for a total of 32 ounces. I did happen to make a PDF for the Kent Rollins method of making Cowboy coffee. So click the link in the description box below to download a copy of the PDF with the exact instructions for making Cowboy coffee Kent Rollins method. Cowboy Kent Rollins recommends using a 1/4 cup of ground coffee per quart of water. So since we have 2 grandes, that's going to basically mean that we're going to have 32 ounces of water and we're going to have a 1/4 cup of ground coffee beans. Now in Cowboy Kent Rollins' video, he mentions taking Old Bertha, the vintage stove, all the way up to 697,000 degrees. He doesn't mention whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. I can't reach those type of temperatures. That exceeds the temperature of the surface of the sun. Needless to say, Cowboy Kent Rollins recommends having your coffee hot. So for Old Coleman back here, I'm just going to take it up to a boiling temperature. So the water is looking a little warm now. That's when Cowboy Kent Rollins recommends adding the ground coffee beans. So I'm going to be putting in 1/4 cup of ground coffee beans. Again, the water is a little warm right now. Here we go. So as you see, those coffee beans are floating at the top. We're going to get it to a rolling boil, and we're going to let it sit on boiling for at least 4 minutes. So I know what some of you are probably thinking, hey, those ground coffee beans are going to get into my cup of coffee. No, they won't if you follow the Cowboy Kent Rollins method exactly. After you let it cool for a little bit, those grounds of coffee are going to settle to the bottom, and we're going to aid it by adding some cold water to the top of it. So let's just wait until it comes to a rolling boil. So I'm going to be using the Shelby Firefighter's glove as my warm glove for taking the coffee pot on and off. So these things could boil fairly quickly, so you want to keep an eye on it. This Shelby Firefighter glove is my go-to glove when barbecuing and cooking. I'm able to grab hot pots with it with no problem. So again, we're going to keep an eye on this pot to make sure that it doesn't boil over. So when making Cowboy coffee, you may think that you're going to get grounds of coffee in your coffee. That's not going to be the case if you follow the Kent Rollins method exactly. All the grounds of coffee are going to settle to the bottom of the pot. So then when you pour the coffee into your cup, you're not going to see any grounds coming in there. So we'll use this clear coffee cup to see that in action. So right now we have it at a nice rolling boil. So we're going to keep an eye on it to make sure that it doesn't boil over, and we're going to let it boil for at least 4 minutes. You don't want to boil it for too long because you don't want burnt coffee either. Okay, so the Cowboy coffee's been in a rolling boil for around 4 minutes, so we're gonna take it off the heat now and let it cool down a bit. Now at this point, all of the coffee grounds are gonna settle to the bottom of the pot, and we wanna let it do that so you don't get those coffee grounds in your cup of coffee. To help bring those coffee grounds down to the bottom of the coffee pot, Cowboy Kent Rollins recommends using a little bit of cold water just around the edges of the coffee pot and down the spout of it to help get those grounds down there. Some people recommend using an egg to help get those coffee grounds down with your Cowboy coffee. Cowboy Kent Rollins doesn't like his eggs in his coffee and recommends using cold water instead. If you like, you could take a wet rag and just wipe the lip or the edge of the coffee pot to help get the remaining grounds off from the sides. All right, our Cowboy coffee should be done now, so let's try it out. All right, here we go. As you see, no grounds. All right, let's try out our Cowboy coffee. It's good coffee. Cowboy Kent Rollins says that if you follow his instructions correctly, your Cowboy coffee will be the smoothest cup of coffee that you've had in the whole wide world. Just how smooth, do you ask? He says as smooth as a Safeway chicken. Well, how smooth is a Safeway chicken? Cowboy Kent Rollins says that a Safeway chicken is as shiny as a silver dollar in a goat's butt. So again, Cowboy coffee is pretty smooth. Now it's probably best to drink your Cowboy coffee in a metal or enamel coated cup. I'm using a clear one here so you can see that there were no coffee grounds in it. But we're gonna make our Cowboy coffee urban style. So let's make it urban Cowboy coffee. Let's put a little bit of cream in it. And we'll put 2 packets of stevia. Stir it together and you have an official cup of urban Cowboy coffee. It's good and smooth. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video featuring urban Cowboy coffee, featuring the Kent Rollins method. Again, I've provided a PDF document. You could download it by clicking the link in the description box below. It has the exact instructions as provided by Cowboy Kent Rollins for making Cowboy coffee. So again, click that link in the description box below, leave your comments in the comment section below, and stay tuned for more videos. Again, this one featured urban Cowboy coffee featuring the Cowboy Kent Rollins method. See you guys next time.